So I don't think there's any, like, unfortunately, I don't think there's any one specific answer. If you were to ask me what's my go-to move once a situation gets violent, I'm going to say a kick to the groin. It's consistently my go-to move. People ask, really, of all your martial arts training, that's what you rely on, is a kick to the groin? And I'm like, absolutely 100%. I rely on a kick to the groin 90% of the times, and it's effective 90% of the times. I've only had a couple of times where kick to the groin was not effective, and I think the dude was doped up. It was so doped up that it didn't really, and by kick to the groin, I mean an axe kick to the groin. I don't mean that I'm trying to karate kick the front of the groin, that I'm sliding my legs in between like I'm kicking a field goal and driving up as hard as I possibly can.
I think if I had to train a bouncer in 1 year, unlimited money to start or whatever, GSP does, 1 day of straight boxing, 1 day of Muay Thai, 1 day of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and 1 day of wrestling, trained separately. And then he does 1 day of everything together.
Yeah.
And then maybe on Sunday that bouncer would train Eskrima or Krav or something else together.
Mm-hmm.
All that, everything else wrapped in.
Yeah.
The only downside I have to say to training Eskrima stuff was at one point I've never pulled a knife on anybody or whatever, but at one point I was training so much Eskrima that I just had my hand on my knife and was thinking about stabbing the guy. It's like, oh, I got to solve this problem.
Yeah.
Where it should always be like the icing on the cake. You need to know how to deal with weapons, but
you learn to trust yourself in those aggressive situations. The only time that I ever felt that I wanted to, really actually wanted to pull a knife on somebody was when I was dealing with a situation where a fellow bouncer got jumped by like 10 people.
Yeah.
And that's the only time. And even then, I was like, I personally don't ever want to go to jail for anything. So I've always tried to be like,
And another time a dude pulled a knife and there was a bunch of us standing there and he was just being crazy. And I thought, I should just try to take this away from him for the practice. And then that's also the wrong. I was watching some documentary and some kid stabbed a bouncer in the femoral. And I might have been watching cops and they were like, if he hadn't been sitting in Screaming, he wouldn't have stabbed that guy in the freaking in the femoral and killed him. And he got caught and went to prison.
And people will say, the thing about the stand-up that's really important, which you start to get after you've been doing stand-up for like 4+ years, is you start to learn how to move and to stay on your feet and to move around people. And that's the really good thing about the stand-up is that you get hard to take down, you get hard to touch, you get hard for people to put hands on you. And you know how to move and you're able to keep yourself safe by moving your feet and your entire body out of the way and out of the situation. And that's what I think that for me, it's really come as a blessing, is that it's hard for people to put hands on me. It's hard for them to touch me because I can move out the way. If they're trying to rush me, I can get out the way, move aside, let them flail into the wall, but not have to me rolling up onto my heels consistently.
And on top of that, if you're just a good boxer, a good Muay Thai guy, and somebody can barely put their hands on you, they're going to have trouble stabbing you.
They're going to have trouble.
You do a little Eskrima with that, and you're just going to own it.
Yeah, I mean, I never wanted to be touched by people, so, I was always very concerned. And actually, my style of doing doors, I always try to give people, like, I never let anybody walk up on me. You always had to keep your space. You never got to get inside my guard. Even in talking to people, I always had my hands up. And, one person said to me once, in talking about doing doors, that, if you're not expecting that everybody's going to try to punch you in the face, you really shouldn't be doing this job. Because when you're talking to people and talking them out, you got to automatically assume that they're going to try to punch you in the head the first chance they get.
One of the things I also want to talk about in this, just because in martial arts in general, a lot of times people go to the class and they go home and they're not trying to get better every time. And then you'll always see a couple guys or a couple girls that are just still drilling afterwards. They saw something, they're working on something, they're training afterwards. And Kewesi and I were always that guy that were like, I've been working on this, I've been working on that. And we'll stick around and keep rolling and I think that's like super important as far as keep pushing yourself and to keep progressing.
And to train with people that are rather aggressive, I think that's a really important thing. Trevor and I have always been friends. But when we trained together, we were trying to really kill each other. And it was great.
Yeah,
it was great. One time I'd have him in a position, and we did jiu-jitsu. We didn't do nice jiu-jitsu. I'd have him in a position, and I'd be grinding my elbow on his eye. And the next second, he'd reverse me, and he'd be grinding his elbow on his eye. And after we'd be sitting there laughing about it, and like both sitting there with eyes all grinded in. And you really just want to train with people that are going to be pushing you. I think that's really important, that you guys are pushing each other. And neither of us ever. There was never any major injuries. Like nobody of us ever, got major injured or hurt each other or anything like that. But we were always really trying to go at it.
And I tried to hire just jiu-jitsu guys on the door, but nobody that can afford jiu-jitsu was willing to come to work. Jiu-jitsu is expensive.